Thoughts on the readings for May 20th, Joshua 5, 6, Isaiah 10, 2 Thessalonians 1, 2. Joshua 5 tells us that the crossing of Israel into the Promised Land struck the Amorites with terror. The Lord instructs Joshua to make sharp flint knives for the circumcising of the nation. No one had been circumcised in the wilderness. All the males of the nation become circumcised in Gibeath-Haraloth, where symbolically the reproach of Egypt was rolled away from the nation. The nation tarried until the men were recovered, and the place named Gilgal, from a root word meaning rolling, as emblematic of what God did for Israel in that place. For us, circumcision of the heart is what the Lord our God asks of us in Deuteronomy and in Jeremiah. Verses 10 to 12 tell us of the first keeping of the Passover in the land, accompanied with the eating of the grain of the land when the manna had ceased. In verses 13 to 15, Joshua met the angelic commander of Yahweh's mighty army, and he humbly submits to this powerful commander. Joshua removes his shoes as he stands on holy ground, just as Moses had done when instructed by the angel of the bush in Exodus 3. In chapter 6, the city of Jericho fell because of faith. Hebrews 11 verses 30 to 31. The fall of Jericho can be accurately dated at BC 1451. Archaeological evidence principally associated with the latest ring scarab of the pharaoh living at that time confirms this date. The archaeologist Garstang explains that the burnt bricks found and the state of the walls corroborates the Bible's story of the walls collapsing out and of the city being burned by fire. Israel were to march around the city once for 6 days, and on the 7th day it was to be encompassed 7 times. Israel's army and congregation advancing before the 7 trumpeting priests and the ark. It must have been quite a spectacle for the city's population, and perhaps became a cause of mirth as the populace wondered how an attack on the city might proceed. Absolute silence occurred until the final encirclement, and the command was then issued to shout. Verses 11 to 16 and verses 20 to 21 describe the events as they occurred in the capturing of Jericho. Verses 17 to 19 tell of Joshua's command to save Rahab and those in her house, in honoring of the oath the spies had given her. These verses also forbid the taking of any spoil from the city which Israel's almighty sovereign had devoted to total oblivion. Verses 22 to 25 tell of the Israelites following Joshua's commands and saving Rahab, and in utterly consuming the city with fire. The chapter concludes with a curse being placed on anyone who would seek to rebuild Jericho. Despite Joshua's prohibiting the rebuilding of Jericho, a rebel sought to do so in the days of Elijah. 1 Kings 16 verse 34 speaks of the sad fulfilling of Joshua's prophecy. Rahab became one of Israel's greatest and faithful proselytes, who was an ancestor of our Lord Jesus Christ. Ruth 4 and Matthew 1. Isaiah 10 verses 1 to 4 denounces the rich and powerful oppressors of Judah. Some of their evils are outlined, and the Almighty declares that these men can expect to feel His heavy hand on them in judgment. Next, the prophet speaks in verses 5 to 19 of the all-powerful Creator stretching out His hand against the arrogant and overreaching Assyrian nation. Assyria would exceed the judgment that the Lord is measuring out to His people Israel. The proud foe of God's people will attribute its victories to their own might and the superiority of their gods. Through the Almighty's outpouring of His anger against those proud idolaters will humble them to realize that there is no God like Israel's. The thinking of the Assyrians is told us in these verses. Verses 12 to 19 speak of the process of devastating and bringing of the mighty nation to its knees. Verses 20 to 27 describe the breaking of the Assyrian yoke from the shoulders of Israel. This would be to the saving of the remnant of the Almighty's people. Verses 28 to 32 tell of the route that the Assyrians will take until they come to their end in Jerusalem. This is prophetic of the end of the latter-day Assyrian, the Russian Confederacy, coming to destruction on Mount Zion. Verse 32. Verses 33 to 34 foretell the wielding of Yahweh's might in the punishment and overthrowing of the Lord's great enemy. The greetings and salutations commencing 2 Thessalonians are identical to Paul's other letters except for the pastoral epistles, 1 Timothy, 2 Timothy, Titus. In chapter 1 verses 3 to 4 the apostle thanks God for the Thessalonican brothers and sisters, whose faith was growing and their love increasing. Despite persecution they were steadfast for the gospel. From verses 5 to 12 Paul urges for that patience to continue, for it will receive the promised reward at the second coming. and kingdom of our Lord Jesus Christ. Our Lord, when He comes with the angels, will also avenge His faithful. The persecutors of the believers will then receive what they deserve. Chapter 2 tells that before the Lord will come there will be a huge forsaking of the true belief, and a system of deceit, which pretends to be the truth, will arise in the earth. The words translated, falling away, and lawlessness, both in the Greek language have the numerical value of 666, compare Revelation 13 verses 16 to 18. From the other identifying features in this chapter, and those within the book of Revelation, tells us that this is the Roman Catholic Church with the Pope as its head. Note that the delusion which allowed this system to develop came about because those who fell away received not the love of the truth. B10. From verses 13 to 17 the Apostle urges them to stand firm for the faith.